Business Weekly, brought to you by KCB. KCB, making the difference.
Ahead on this week's edition, we look at adulterated drinks and the effect these are having on the Kenyan youth and the economy in general. Also in the program, the business of merchandising and how some entrepreneurs are cashing in on the football craze as local football league regains popularity. That Your Question Answered and the Investor's Diary on the program. Good evening and welcome to this edition of KTN Business Weekly. I'm Michael Oyer. Do remember that we're taking your questions or comments at number 8041 or the email address ktnbizweekly@standardmedia.co.ke. Send them and it could be your question that we pick next to have an expert answer right here on the show. Tears are yet to dry and wailing to subside for families that lost their members to adulterated drinks in parts of central Kenya last month. This was not the first time that such deaths caught media attention, but concern is that many more continue to lose their lives away from media glare as the country drags its feet on developing and implementing a sustainable solution to curb this vice. It turns out that the country does not have a clear policy on how to handle such crimes and will repeatedly adopt crisis management strategies whenever the cases hit the headlines. Our feature looks at the situation and what can be done to protect the country from losing the most productive age bracket of the population, that's the youth.
Death and more death and destruction. Picture of lives laid to waste, not by war, nor by natural calamity, but by alcohol. These have now become familiar headlines. Understandably, this was the furious reaction by residents of Kiambaa following reports of new deaths caused by adulterated alcoholic beverages, bringing the total number of casualties to a new high of 30 lives in the span of 7 days. It was an occurrence that caught the attention of all and sundry and for a short time focused the national attention on what is fast becoming a national issue.
This has led to the loss of several lives. Government administrators must move with speed and deal decisively with this issue.
Indeed, if the number of fatalities are anything to go by, one will be forgiven for thinking that parts of Kenya are in a war zone situation. Even worse is the fact that this alcohol has been blamed for reducing procreation in some areas and thus interfering with social balance.
The only community that missed the projected population target was the Kikuyus, and we missed it by 1 million people. Why? Because of this level of poisoning. We are taking poisonous blues.
Corruption is the issue. These are cartels. Alcohol cartels are big. The adulterated drinks cartels would, to me, I'm estimating to stand at around now 20 billion shillings. 20 billion shillings is enough to run about 10 ministries. That is the size of the industry. So that works out to be the major thing. And then greed.
It is indeed a challenge of monumental proportions, and the organization charged with slaying this ogre is the National Campaign Against Drug and Substance Abuse, NACADA. According to the organization, majority of alcohol abusers in Kenya are between the productive ages of 18 to 35 years, with the National Campaign Against Drug and Substance Abuse report indicating that up to 13% of Kenyans are addicted to one form of alcoholic beverage or the other. A baseline survey by NACADA also shows 25% of the public service force is abusing alcohol, a direct threat to the country's human resource. Most of these addicts are turning to what are termed as second-generation alcoholic beverages.
The most affected are Central Kenya. And look at them. 18 suits challenging Mutuzo laws are from Central Kenya itself. The rest of Kenyans are just watching. So you realize the same people who are dying, the same people who have their mothers and their fathers losing their sons and husbands and what have you, are the same ones who are in the forefront fighting through the courts.
The mental demand for alcohol, and they cannot afford. What they do, bootleg. What the others do, they go to second generation alcoholic beverages.
1 year since the passage and operationalization of the famous Mututho law, attempts at taming the vice seem to have been futile. Questions are now beginning to arise over why the law seems to be missing its target.
We're happy with the kind of laws, but a law in itself, without people internalizing the law, it becomes very difficult to implement.
The Minister for Internal Security has no capacity, and you know what the importance of capacity when you are having a problem of this magnitude. He has no capacity, technical and operational.
The government, especially the area administration police, were aware of the zebra pub, which you can see behind me, and it was discovered last week that this illegal brew is being manufactured in Kikuyu.
Different perspectives on what should have been a unified approach to tackle one challenge, one unifying factor here being the acceptance across the board that Kenya still lacks a national policy on alcohol. Experts agree that this could be what continues to hamper efforts to rein in on the vice.
My view is that we don't have a national policy on alcohol. No, we don't. We have allowed this particular country to be alcoholized.
What I'm saying, we don't have a document you can say that this is a policy, this alcoholic policy in this country. But in terms of standards, KEBS have developed almost 40 standards for alcoholic beverage that we...
While law enforcement agents may apprehend persons found in possession of illicit alcoholic substances, political interferences have been blamed for watering down what should otherwise have been successful efforts to properly regulate the industry. The fact that the mainstream alcoholic beverage industry has a strong lobby voice means that often alcoholic policy may not get proper hearing it deserves at the policy-making level. This, coupled with an approach that seems to focus on consumers, with little or no investigation done in attempts to find the sources of the poisonous substances, leaves society going round in circles and no closer to finding a solution.
The truth of the matter is that the provincial administration, the police, they will not make it. They will not, if whatever you do, I have been there, and I know the frustration. You mop up in that small area. You pour. Why are they pouring instead of taking it as exhibits? Because when they go there, the fine is so little.
The introduction of Alcoholic Drinks Control Act of 2010, despite criticism over both spirit, content and even drafting of the law, points to a clear lack of engagement mechanism between government and other stakeholders. Also conspicuously absent has been the Public Health Ministry, which besides being technically qualified to analyze content of the beverages, is also charged with ensuring consumers consume only that which is good for their health.
Team up to ministers. Do not remove public health again from being the focal point of alcohol. 2, put strict measures such that anybody dying of alcohol, there will be a report, mandatory report, 2 weeks.
But public health should be in the forefront in the control of illicit alcohol. But also remember, even that ministry itself has not exhausted the mechanisms and tools that are at their disposal. If you look through the acts, like the Public Health Act and all the other acts, you'll realize that they have also slept on their job for a very long time.
Currently, there are about 4,500 registered mainstream alcohol outlets in Nairobi alone and thousands of other informal ones. Increasing accessibility to alcohol and the avenues through which illicit and adulterated brews sneak through to the unsuspecting public. This, coupled with active promotion of alcoholic brands, creates what might be for many an insatiable thirst and thus a phenomenon responsible for the many Kenyan youth taking up drinking at an early age.
In fact, we have come up with a draft regulation on promotion of alcohol, promotion and advertisement of alcohol, which again, it is still through the government process, trying to look at it. We have done it with other stakeholders. And the accessibility of alcohol, as I said, it is informed by the active advertisement that we have had in the past.
All may not be lost though, for society is resilient and may be able to bounce back. Going forward though, the fight against alcohol and other addictive substance abuses does require firm affirmative action.
enforce one law, Food, Drugs and Chemical Substances Act. The Food, Drugs and Chemical Substances Act, under Section 28, creates a body, one organ, with all the powers, called Public Health Standards Board. That board should have withdrawn all those alcoholic beverages when they created trouble in Kiamaiko.
Let us do things right. If you have been licensed to brew a certain type of liquor, please adhere to those standards. Let us not rush into quick profits.
While many people may be aware of the death toll that has ravaged parts of the country since methanol poisoning became a commonplace in Kenya in the last decade, worse and even more hidden and stealthy are the direct and knock-on effects on productivity and procreation that bear not only on the economy but also on the societal fabric and the well-being of Kenya as a nation as a whole.
Time for a break now, but when we return, we feature the area of merchandising that's rapidly gaining ground as Kenyans get back to the terraces in support of their local football teams. That, your question answered, and the Investor's Diary when we return. Stay with KTN Business Weekly.